KayCee's ViewSpot is glad to be back in Mr. M.R.Sivaraman's house. Almost 2 years and 8 months to the day when we first spoke to him in November 2011. Thank you, Mr. Sivaraman.
Thank you.
For agreeing to appear in KayCee's ViewSpot again to talk about your views on some current issues. Let's go straight to the questions. With the BJP and Prime Minister Narendra Modi having been given a huge mandate from the people of India, the Modi government has their work cut out for them to meet the expectations of the people. What do you see are the major issues they will have to tackle to bring about an efficient administration that satisfies all sections of society?
See, the first thing Mr. Modi has to do is to restore the confidence of the bureaucracy in themselves and also in their ability to discharge their responsibilities. What had happened in the past was that too many cases for which they may be responsible, they may not be responsible, and the bridge, or rather the chasm that had widened between the bureaucracy and the ministers had also been responsible for a complete divide between the bureaucracy and the ministers. We must recognize one thing: the Constitution puts the responsibility both on the minister and the secretaries who are in charge of departments to fulfill the charter that they have or that the parliament has laid down in terms of policy prescriptions for improving the country's status and image, both in economic terms as well as in political as well as in military terms. Now all these arrests, these scandals, the bribery, the corruption, the ministers asserting their rights, the ministers going beyond their jurisdiction and beyond the powers that have been given to them in the Constitution, had created a whole lot of confusion in the government. Now normally when any difference that takes place between a minister and a bureaucrat, and if the bureaucrat stands firm saying that he is going to discharge his responsibilities in accordance with the Constitution, and if his minister does not permit, he goes to the Prime Minister through the Cabinet Secretary to tell him that this is what is happening. And the Prime Minister could normally step in and see that the whole matter is resolved. But in this particular case it never happened. And unfortunately Dr. Manmohan Singh, whom I had known for decades, he failed to protect an honest and sincere civil servant at the time it was required. That's what it appears to be so. Because for instance in the case of the 2G scam, or even in the case of the allotment of coal blocks, when the bureaucrat said, please go ahead and auction these things so that there is transparency and nobody will accuse the government of wrongdoing, Mr. Manmohan Singh probably failed to respond positively in those cases. So this has been a major drawback in the last 10 years, and unless Modi restores this confidence and restores these respective responsibilities of civil servants and ministers, he may find it very difficult to once again ensure that there is a proper governance in this country.
So you feel that there should be a parity, a balance between the bureaucrats and the ministers?
No, their respective roles have been carved out. Both in the Constitution as well as in the transaction of business rules. In the transaction of business rules, the minister is supposed to be in charge of the department. And the secretary is the administrative head of the department. What does it mean? The minister lays down the policies for his ministry. And the secretary carries it out in accordance with the laws, the regulations, etc. that are required to enforce the responsibilities or that are required to enforce the policies of the government. Now thereafter the minister should stop from interfering. Because he is the administrative head, the secretary. And if he starts interfering in everything, then the whole system breaks down.
So I was fortunate to listen to your take on the finance minister's presentation of the union budget in the parliament recently. I felt that you brought out the highlights in a manner that even a lay person could understand. Since you have been India's revenue secretary for a number of years, how would you have presented the union budget had you been the finance minister, given the almost absolute mandate that the present central government has been given?
Yes, that's a very fine question that you have asked. I myself said in a couple of speeches which I delivered after the budget that the finance minister should have had a completely different type of speech to be delivered to the parliament. this is a first government which has got a party majority in the parliament.
Yeah.
So what would I have done?
Yeah.
If I had been the finance minister, I would have looked at India's place in the Committee of Nations.
Okay.
Today India ranks well below 100 in many of the areas. Like for example in the ease of doing business. India was ranked 131. Now it is 134 in 2014 ranking. I would have given the steps that I would take in order to bring India in the top 50 at least within the next 2 years. That would have been very easy for the finance minister. For instance, clearance of projects. For instance, clearance of various other things like registration of business, for the construction permit, bankruptcy laws. All these things were within the reach of the finance minister. Even assuming that a lot of input is required from the states. And the finance minister was not in a position to give an assurance in the parliament in regard to these responsibilities, like for instance giving construction permit, giving permits for water supply, giving permit for electricity, etc. He could have at least said, I would earnestly request all the state governments to take necessary steps to India for it to become within the first 50 of the world ranking. Now, if that had not been possible, he could have at least assured the parliament that I would ensure that these things would be taken by the states in which the NDA is in power or the BJP in power, which unfortunately he did not say. Second most important thing, India, after so many thousands of years of cultural and civilization history, still ranks as one of the poorest countries in regard to malnutrition. Of course, the finance minister said some steps that we would take in regard to improving the nutrition level amongst children. Like he will put a mission in regard, he should have categorically stated what he would do and how he would bring India's nutrition level amongst children into the first 10 within the next 2 to 3 years, which also he did not do. There are several areas like that where he could have completely changed the budget speed. For example, they have set apart a large sums of money for improving agriculture. What is ailing India's agriculture? Although we are supposed to have been one of the first countries in the world which started cultivation, our productive levels are very low. So he could have narrated the steps that he would take in the next 1 or 2 years to bring India's productivity levels at least to the world average. In which case, India's total production of food grains would have gone up by almost 30 to 35%, which is very easy and which is within reach. He could have done that, he didn't do that. So I had suggested to the current Revenue Secretary, please change the reply of the Finance Minister to the Parliament in a manner in which the government stands committed to some of these things. Unfortunately, they did not do it.
You know, I would have really, I've got a lot of questions here, but then I see that I think I'll have space for only one more. What are the ramifications of India not signing the trade facilitation agreement recently on the fate of the Doha round? Can you explain to the lay viewer what the TFA is?
The TFA is very simple. That is, when goods come and goods go from here, they have to go very smoothly and seamlessly. Even after so many years of discussion in the various international fora, we still have a lot of hurdles, not only in this country but in other countries also. Even in the United States, there are plenty of hurdles for goods to enter the United States, where there are a lot of restrictions on certain types of goods entering the United States. So in our country also, we have a number of stages through which various documents are processed before goods can be exported or goods can be imported. There are trade barriers, non-trade barriers. So the agreement was that all these things will be smoothened out so that goods can come in freely and goods can go free. So therefore that India is committed to doing it, irrespective of whether we are going to sign the TFA agreement or not. What India is trying to bargain is that we should also have the freedom to have our own procurement policies and our own storage policies in regard to keeping sufficient stock of food grains to meet a situation of drought or famine in this country. Nothing is going to happen if India refuses to sign the trade facilitation agreement, which in any case we are doing it, irrespective whether the agreement is there or not. And if they combine it with the other one, that is our freedom to have our own stock of food grains and our own procurement policies.
Let's try for one more question. Coming to a different issue, some civil service aspirants are agitating for the withdrawal of the civil services aptitude test. What is your take on this? And in this connection, Do you feel that it is time for specialists to be administering the country when times have changed so dramatically over the last few decades rather than the generals?
There are many specialists amongst the IAS.
Yeah.
There are veterinary surgeons.
Yeah.
There are dentists.
Yeah.
There are cardiac specialists.
Yeah.
There are neurosurgeons. There are economists. There are brilliant engineers. The IAS is a sort of a variety shop.
Okay.
You could get any talent in the service, and it is not absolutely certain that you recruit somebody from the market, he will do very well. For example, once upon a time, one present chairman of a very large company in India was taken as chairman of Air India.
Okay.
He thoroughly failed there, but he succeeded as a chairman of a private sector company. So it is not necessary that these so-called specialists can succeed in the IAS. They may or they may not. But given the talent within the IAS itself, the government should utilize the talent properly. And as far as agitation is concerned, I think it is a nonsense agitation. Because there are teaching shops which have sprung up all over the country. I have been to one of them in Chennai itself. They charge huge sums of money. They make people to get by-heart answers to questions of 30 years. And then they make them appear in the IAS. Many of them fail. They don't become a proper administrator thereafter. They pass the exam. They want to break that vicious cycle in this aptitude test. Those aptitude tests are already there. When you want to enter the engineering college, IIT particularly, or you want to enter the medical college, or you want to enter the IIM, all these aptitude tests are there. This particular aptitude test has already been copied only from these exams.
No, but they're saying that it goes, it's skewed against the humanitarian.
That is not correct at all. It's not correct at all. Do you mean to say a person writing in Assamese language and everything doing in Assamese, he will ask for a posting in Assam, then he should appear for a deputy collector's examination. He may be posted to Kerala, he may be posted to Punjab, he may be posted in Timbuktu as an Indian Foreign Service officer. Would he like his subordinate to speak Assamese because he is in Assam?
Okay.
That's not correct.
I think I'm going to skip the questions that I had on the international front. The last one I'd like to ask you is about the women's reservation. Do you think that will become an act under the Modi administration?
It should be, because after all so many people have been asking for that act to be passed in the parliament. For some reason or the other, I think it is only one particular political party which has been standing against it. If that party also moves through, probably this should become a legislation very shortly.
Okay.
And it will do good for this country.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay. Though I said I wouldn't ask, I think I still have a little bit left. So the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in Gaza has been going on for a long time. Is there a way out?
The only way out is to create a Palestine state.
Okay.
And that has been coming for the last 60-70 years. Somehow the Israel has been pouring hot and cold water over it. They want to have certain areas, they do not want to have certain areas. The only solution lies in the United States standing firm and telling Israel, this far and no further, create a Palestinian state, otherwise we are stopping all assistance to you. That will not happen because the USA is entirely dependent upon the very large Jewish community in the United States, both the Democrats as well as the Republicans.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sivaraman.